Yeah, so I did research on the other companies, such as airlines and cruise lines and oil companies. This is a great burger place here. At least some people that are working. It's great that you guys are actually working, because most people they don't work with Corona. I'm very happy you guys do. Delicious burgers. Mama Rocks, in Nairobi. Nyam nyam nyam.
Please put your mask on so it's taking the video.
Oh yeah, right. So what I want to say is that those cruise lines and airlines and oil tankers, all of them really don't interest me much after doing some more research. Yes, of course, valuations are very, very low. If you look at these cruise lines compared to the book value, it's actually 60% undervalued. For example, Carnival, compared to the book value, it never happened. Only in 2008 it happened once. That it went below book value. It was only 20% below book value. But of course, these companies will remain in business. Carnival, for example, had a loan, or was able to get a loan of 10 billion, but it's at 10% interest. But the problem, of course, is that is it all priced in? Because the value of Carnival, for example, is it still it's still 10 billion, I think, about that. But it is like the worst crisis you can imagine for a company like this. It's not that there are less customers. There are no customers whatsoever. And even if there would be customers, they can't even offer them a service because, well, many governments forbid it. So that this is at least half a year, possibly up to a year, that all these boats, and that's 100 boats, 100 cruise ships in the case of Carnival, are anchored, have there is no revenue whatsoever, and they do have great expenses, at a rate of about 500 million per month or so. So they are burning $500 million a month, and how do you make up for such an incredible loss? That's not easy. Yeah, I mean, this is actually a true disaster for such a company, and basically you go broke from it. Yeah, you're wiped out. You can't cut those costs. Yeah, of course, everybody's home, the employees are not paid, but it takes also quite some money to not pay employees. But the ships are there, the loans on the ships are there, they need to be paid off, the interest on the loans, and there's so many ongoing costs that you can't cut as a company. But you have zero income for a year, I mean zero revenue, I guess a huge cost, and so yeah, they are able to borrow 10 billion at 10%, but that's also very bad because yeah, okay, they stay afloat, but they do wipe out 500 million per month. That's 5 billion, maybe 10 billion that they lose, and pure losses. Yeah, it's just very, very bad, and we might not have seen the bottom of this. The bottom is actually zero in the case of such companies. That's the bottom because, well, the existing capital is wiped out from such an event, and that's not priced in. It is still worth 10 billion. They may be, I don't know if they own the ships or lease the ships, I don't know, but the book value is 30 billion or so, so I assume that they own the ship. So you could say, yeah, but they have lots of capital, like they are worth a lot. Look at the book value. But what's the value of a cruise ship today if you want to sell it in the market? Is that book value correct? No, It's totally outdated. You want to sell a cruise ship today? How much do you get on the dollar? 50 cents on the dollar? 40 cents? 30 cents? 20 cents? 10 cents? Well, it's probably 10 cents. Nobody is buying a cruise ship today. Huh? Nobody. So, but wow, if you sell it at 10 cents, then maybe somebody will buy it. Huh? So the book value is also incorrect. That's not representing market value. And as an investor, you always have to look at what's the market value of what I buy. And the market value is indeed a lot lower than the book value. And therefore, you might even be overpaying for the company today. So yeah, it is very bad news. And the positive news about a company like this is that very likely cruises are not going, it's not the end of the cruise market. Like, people love cruising, many people do, they get a lot of value for their money, and it will likely pick up again and be back as before within probably not a year, but maybe 2 years, 3 years time, that they are back running the way they did. But of course, in the meantime, a lot of capital is destroyed. And yeah, that's very bad luck for them. But I'm not going to sign up for bad luck myself, unless it's all priced in, and I'm not sure that's the case here. Airlines actually also, of course, have a future. We love flying, people love flying, and will, as they become richer, fly more. So that's also an industry with a big future, and especially on these budget airlines like Ryanair and Wizz Air, and in Europe and in America you have them too. I don't know the names, but of course they are growing in market share and do a good job. But here too, it's a total disaster what happens to them. All these planes are stuck to the ground. It's like a drop of 90% in turnover. It's not 100% like the cruise lines, but it's 90. It's like also a total disaster. Yes, cargo flying is now the business. They can make much more money on cargo, but most of these airlines, of course, are not focused on cargo, and so they are not really profiting from that much. And this is also only temporary. Cargo rates are up exactly because passenger airlines are grounded, and so there's not much cargo able to ship from. There's not much cargo space available. That's why cargo rates go up. But there is no business potential here. The moment people start flying again, cargo rates go down again. So passenger airlines is the same story. Is this priced in? Such a disaster. It's a much bigger disaster than 2008 financial crisis, or even the 2001 9/11 attacks, where indeed in America they were grounded shortly, but very quickly started flying again. And how long did it take? A year before it was back to normal. People were freaked out by the airlines, by flying, of course, seeing that some planes crashed into the Twin Towers, but after a year I was gone and people flew again. But this is a worldwide disaster for airlines, and so a lot of capital is being destroyed right now. And is that priced in? And what is the book value of these airlines right now? It might be actually, if you look at the market value, Ryanair, for example, dropped only 50%. That's not that much due to this crisis. The book value of their company at least dropped with 50% also, because the value of these planes is down a lot right now. But the other problem with airlines is that airlines are, okay, this is not such a strong point, but it is of course important, are being disrupted also likely by automobiles that are able to drive automatically. Tesla has made big headway there. Of course, it's not there yet. It probably take a couple more years before you can really like let your car drive yourself. But they have made big progress, and so it will likely happen. And that will disrupt airlines, because that suddenly, like if you have your own car can drive by itself, and suddenly are you gonna drive to that, let's say 5-hour drive to that in the US especially, it takes 5 hours or so, or maybe 8 hours or 4 hours to drive to the next city that you have to go to. But and in Europe, of course, you have also many destinations that are 4 or 5 hour drives that usually people take planes for, because they don't want to do such a long drive. But when you have an autopilot, that actually becomes a much better choice to drive, because you don't have to drive. You can actually just surf the interwebs, play with your phone, watch a movie, and actually then it's quicker than a plane, because a plane you have to drive to the airport, park, go to the security, check in. You're wasting 2-3 hours there, and by that time you could have arrived already with the car. It's not worth it to fly for such distances due to all these regulations that really fuck up flying. So and I hear that these are the most profitable flights also for airlines, the short flights. So even for budget airlines, this will impact them. This is far away, but you do want to invest in industry that is growing in adoption, not shrinking. And I think here you see that it will grow. Of course, people will fly more as they become more wealthy, but there are other factors at play also. You also have working from home now. Has suddenly made big headway thanks to the coronavirus, and that also involves business meetings. Will be less. People will do more over the internet, which also will cut back on business flying, also one of the most profitable segments of airlines. That will also be impacted somewhat due to this crisis. So I think, of course, airlines and flying will grow, but not at a fast rate, because there are other ways that are eating away from their clientele, other solutions. So the last thing I researched was oil tankers, and of course oil tankers are very interesting because they make tons of money right now. It's 20,000. Usually an oil tanker you can rent at 20,000 a day, but now it costs you $200,000 a day. So they make 10 times more, because there is a glut in oil and a shortage of storage. And the oil has become super cheap, and so it makes financial sense to buy the cheap oil. You even got paid a week ago or so to receive oil. You got it for free. No, they paid you $30 a barrel to take it from them if you have storage. Crazy. An event that will likely never happen again, and has never happened in the past. But that illustrates, of course, how cheap oil has become. It is crazy. But that also pushed up storage prices. But is this sustainable? What will happen once the glut in oil stops? It's of course due to demand. The demand has collapsed, whereas production, it just has continued. You can't just shut off an oil well like that, and so the production continued while the demand collapsed, and that has caused this oil crisis. But of course demand will pick up again, but there are also some problems there, and that is, for example, that electrical vehicles really are now at 2% already adoption, and actually that means that the early adopter phase is over, and we will very likely within a couple of years go to 30% penetration, which means that it really is going to start to impact oil consumption. So, because yes, oil has many uses. Yeah, thank you. I will take it. Thank you. I have to pay. Yeah. One moment. What a delicious burger, huh? It looks so good. Yum, yum, yum. Mango Masai burger. Here's the menu. Losing a very big customer, such as the car, will likely impact oil demand the same as when people stopped using horses as transportation. Sure, there was still a demand for horses afterwards, but a lot less. I think it was about 300,000 horses in New York alone that were used for transportation, and yeah. So losing the car, and not only the car, people are also busy with trucks, Tesla even, and planes. As a consumer of oil, will likely impact demand. Of course, electricity is also generated by oil in many cases, but electricity is also generated by coal, which is cheaper, and also water, dams, and windmills and sun panels. And so I think that investing in oil tankers is risky. I mean, yes, there is clearly a shortage right now, and there I might be a shortage also in the next 5 years, if it's true indeed that many oil tankers will go offline. But of course, I can imagine even an old oil tanker, when you can make good money, will continue to operate, of course. They will make it work. So yeah, I think it's too risky to invest in it. So the only thing that for me remains is something like the genomic revolution. It is an interesting diversification for me, away from crypto and electrical vehicles. It's something completely different, and an industry can always fail. I mean, it's a low probability, but there is a chance that crypto fails. There is still also a chance that Tesla fails. So it is an interesting diversification. So I plan to buy, if we correct, this fund, ARKG, or maybe some companies that are in it, and also plan to buy more Tesla if the opportunity is there, and that's it. Crypto I don't plan to buy, except if we hit the next target, which is testing the bottom again around 3,500 for BTC, 120 billion total market cap, maybe 130 or so for Ethereum and 160 or so for Bitcoin Cash. If we would reach that, I would invest again in crypto, but otherwise probably not. So hope you enjoyed it.